Hi everyone, Dr. Nicole Lepera, the holistic psychologist here. As always, thank you to each and every one of you subscribers out there. If you're not yet subscribed and you like this video, please feel free to do so at the end. So, today's video is on the trauma brain. 5 signs that you might be struggling with trauma brain. So first and foremost, what is trauma? I'm a big believer that trauma is a much more expansive experience that most of us have had in our past than the traditional definition. So what do we typically think of when we think of trauma? We think of a big glaring instance of abuse, of neglect, the big bad thing that happens. And while yes, that is part of the experience of trauma, a lot of trauma that a lot of us are experiencing is overlooked. Trauma also comes in the form of not feeling seen, heard, valued as a child, having our boundaries violated, typically in our first environments in our family systems. Also, trauma involves having really big, overwhelming emotions with very little guidance on how to work through them or how to process through them. So when you hear that expanded definition, a lot of you out there listening, while you might not have the memory of the big bad thing that happened, you might resonate with these 5 indicators of trauma brain because, like I said, trauma is much more pervasive than most of us realize. So, first and foremost, one indicator of trauma brain, an obsessive desire to be chosen by others, romantic partners, friends, bosses, professional, without any awareness of how you or your body feels in that context, in that relationship, within that connection. It's really just a hyper focus on, does this person, whoever they might be, like me? Do they want me? I hear this a lot in dating. I'll speak to people who are in the early stages of cultivating a romantic relationship or even a friendship, and I'll hear such a focus on what him or her or they or them think about me without, well, wait a minute, how do I feel showing up to spend time with this person? How do I feel in my body? Is this positive? Do I feel lighter and lifted when I leave this exchange? Or do I feel heavy and not so positive? Again, this really is forsaking what I feel with only a hyper focus on being accepted, being valued, or being wanted by the other person. Number 2, this also looks like, and these two are connected, chronic social anxiety. What is that? When I am hyper vigilant, I'm always, if I'm out, even if it's me and one other person or me and a group of people, I tend to find myself monitoring what everyone else mainly is thinking about me. Right? So again, without any focus on how am I enjoying this exchange or these people, in my mind, I'm worrying about, oh, do they like me? Do they say the right thing? And a lot of us experience this version of social anxiety. Another version, again, of this is I'm worried more about you and how you're experiencing me than how I'm experiencing the situation. Number 3, this is another one that a lot of us struggle with, especially in the digital age. So a need for consistent distraction, right? Part of trauma is we really don't feel safe in this present moment. So what many of us do, and I use this biggest coping tool. Those of you who have been following me know I call it my spaceship of dissociating, of distracting myself from the present moment because the present moment doesn't feel safe to many of us who have trauma brain. The typical one that most of us think about is substance use, but this looks so different now. This is so much more expanded again. This could look like chronic social media use. This could look like just distracting myself, daydreaming, being somewhere else entirely. And again, we're leaving the present moment typically because something doesn't feel safe about the present moment. Might not even be mapping onto the reality of a not safe moment. Some of this is just that remnant of the trauma of feeling unsafe in past experiences. So what do? We escape it. And we escape it, like I said, by dissociating, by distracting ourselves, by just doing something else with our attention and not being as fully present here. 4, another sign of trauma brain is consistent chronic ego stories based in self-judgment and comparison. Many of us have that internal critic in our minds, and what that sounds like is an endless litany of, and again, the digital age provides us multiple opportunities to see how other people are doing and to compare ourselves. And trust me, oftentimes we're not comparing ourselves favorably. We're feeling less about ourselves than others. We're judging ourselves. And then number 5, so trauma brain also looks like a lack of self-trust that often leads to procrastination, self-sabotage, and shame cycles. Again, as a result of our past experiences and our conditioned experiences, many of us don't show up for ourselves. We betray ourselves. We show up for others. We worry more about others. We're distracting ourselves from ourselves. And then before you know it, we find episodes of procrastination, putting things off, never getting to them, endless cycles of self-sabotage, not showing up in the world as we want and not accomplishing the things that we want. So if you are resonating with these 5 indicators of trauma brain, take a look. The way out of trauma brain, because this is the result of our past experiences and our conditioned behaviors, we now have to teach ourselves how to show up differently in the world for ourselves. I will link below a video on the how-tos of reparenting. That is a great way to get you started in healing the trauma brain. So I hope you found this video helpful.